There ain't no way this man is talking to Ollie London. There ain't no way.
No, I really think that trans people that have been living as a trans person their whole life, they need to speak out against this, because the problem is that the LGBT community is being hijacked by these radical people.
Let me ask, sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but I just want to address things you said already, right? So you say that the people who were demonstrating at the Texas...
Bro, Ethan is so good at this shit.
...part of this trans movement who wants to...
He don't need my help at all.
Sexualize kids and this whole list of things. Are you in favor of only lawful protests?
For the record, this is Ethan's greatest enemy yet, because every anti-trans activist is like, has encyclopedic knowledge of every minor infraction that trans people have ever committed. So this is the highest level of debate that he's ever engaged with. I'm gonna be honest, it's like debating a flat earther. It's very difficult to debate flat earthers, no matter how much you know the science, because they can constantly trap you in their junk science, and they know more than you in the junk science. So transphobia is kind of like that too.
Probably no, or I think you did at one point, is that gender affirming care on people, on children, is exceedingly rare.
So, Ethan, about 10 years ago, when gender affirming care was performed on whether that was minors or adults, there was a lot of checks and balances. Now it has become so easy. So they don't have the psychiatrist appointments anymore. They don't have, having to wait several years to transition. Now it's a fast track process. And that's the real issue, because many of these teens, and we're seeing thousands of teens being transitioned and put on hormones. The number's really gone up in the last few years. Many of these teens are struggling with other issues. There's a high case, around 1 in 6 of these children have autism. They're being misdiagnosed. There's also kids with...
The way you look and the way you sound plays a serious role in how you're perceived in debates. And Ollie London looks like shit. So, like, it's very hard for people to take him seriously. You know what I mean? It's just like, he just looks so fucking insane, because he's unhinged. He's an unhinged psychopath.
The system is being exploited.
Like, he was like, he was trying to be like transracial or some shit. Remember? Like,
there's so many examples.
It's not going to work.
People. But the thing is now is, previously, as difficult as it was, because it's so hard when you're trans to struggle and to think every day that I'm trapped in the wrong body. It is horrific to go through that. But the problem is, years ago, they would have 2 to 3 years they would have to undergo of psychiatrist appointments, doctors.
Ethan should go, wait, you transitioned years ago. What does that say then?
So the internal investigation said there was no wrongdoings. The patient said there was no wrongdoings. So I guess I'm just curious. The people who are claiming that there was something wrong there is like the Daily Caller, Tucker Carlson. Are you saying that they don't have a bias?
Well, I mean, a lot of people have a bias and stuff, but, we have to look at these gender clinics as a whole. Project Veritas exposed multiple clinics the other day of talking about medically transitioning 8 to 11-year-olds. So we have to acknowledge that
so good.
This is going on in a lot of clinics, and a lot of these clinics are trying to cover their backs by trying to paint a rosy picture that it's perfect.
Did you say fine. Project Veritas?
Yes, they did an undercover investigation.
That's the guy who got ousted for being like a sex criminal and like scam artist, James O'Keefe. That's his organization, right? Gays Against Groomers. So
Have you heard of that?
I haven't, but who's the groomer then?
So basically, Gays Against Groomers is an organization of hundreds of LGBT people. It includes trans people as well. Basically, this organization is calling out the harms. They're doing investigations of gender.
That's also a lie. Gays Against Groomers is like literally started by a straight man.
You mentioned an organization, Gays Against Groomers, which was founded by Jamie Mitchell. Is that right? So Jamie Mitchell and their partner are ultra MAGA Trump followers, and there's nothing wrong with being a Trump supporter, but they're also anti-transgender. They spread anti-transgender propaganda with QAnon conspiracy theories, and interestingly, the founders are straight. So how is it that they can make a Gays Against a Groomers organization when they themselves are not even gay? That seems disingenuous. There's got to be other examples to make such bold claims as that there's a whole movement trying to sexualize kids.
Yeah, I mean, even if you look at the music industry, you have really shocking performances like Sam Smith, for instance, who is pushing a specific agenda. He has concerts which are allowing all ages. And, if you want to be a musician, do whatever you want, but don't be doing sexually graphic things, because it's not an attack on trans people. Calling out specific cases where children are being exposed to something that's highly inappropriate and trying to raise awareness of that. So it's not a label that's attached to gay people, lesbians, trans people. It's literally about calling out.
I think more people should utilize the Mrs. Doubtfire argument, like as I like to call it. Do you think Mrs. Doubtfire was grooming an entire generation of like children to be trans?
Gross, they were
not the trans.
The Mrs. Doubtfire argument is not to like own your interlocutor. It's to make your interlocutor look like a psychotic woke scold from the right, of course, to onlookers.
You are actually selling kids lunchboxes with a picture of you depicted as a trans woman, and you're selling
No, that's not as a trans woman. That's not as a trans woman. That's just a K-pop picture of me.
Okay, because this is you. I had a feeling you would say that, because here it is, you wearing that design.
It's me as a K-pop star. It's nothing to do with being trans or not. That's just a cartoon of me as a K-pop star. So it's not. But that's not inappropriate.
Right, but at the time you were a trans woman.
Correct. At the time I was a trans woman, but there's nothing inappropriate.
So it's you as a trans woman.
He's about to be like, yeah, I was a groomer.
It does not depict me as a trans woman. It depicts me.
He's about to be like, yeah, I was a groomer back then. I'm not anymore.
You're willing to make that separation when you're making such general claims about groomers and stuff, because to me, by your own definition, this is pretty groomy.
Would you buy it for your kids?
I mean, I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't, just because I don't want to support you financially.
I've been listening, by the way. I'm just setting up the bed.
But theoretically, I don't think I'd have a problem with. No, I wouldn't have a problem with my children.
There you go, Ethan. So this is what I was gonna say. The one issue with like by your logic style arguments is that you have to clarify, like you don't actually have an issue with Oli London selling this. It's that he has an issue with it, but he himself is also a grifter.
Or even elementary school, when they shouldn't be thinking about that. I think it's wrong to expose them to that. I think
exposing them.
Also, airtight argument from Oli. That's not me as a trans woman. I'm a K-pop star. Okay, dude. Like.
But I think it's a really important point that you're not.
Good one,
good one,
Oli. I'm sure everyone is gonna think you're a K-pop star. That's a great one.
Why is it still on your website, at least,
It's come on, Ethan. I don't know what to say. It's a cartoon of a K-pop star.
Yeah.
And it's very innocent.
Yeah,
it's just
that's infallible. Yeah, no, that's the best defense, man. You got it.
Trans kids on there. What, do you think I should make it more masculine?
No, the Higo face is like some kind of hentai thing, isn't it?
I have no idea.
Bro said Higo face. Ahego, you fucking lack of pervert. You don't know what? It's not Higo. It's Ahego.
Hold on.
He's not perverted enough. Uncultured.
No.
Okay, but let's move on.
I do know anime and stuff. I don't know anything to do with that pose. Literally, I've got my mouth open like this. Peace.
Ethan, move on from the Ahegao, man. He's still talking about the Ahego face.
Thanks.
Yes.
But the kids are being bullied because of their identity, because maybe a boy is more feminine or a girl is more like a tomboy. So they're also being bullied for that. But in certain studies, the one in Finland at Tampere University, they found that there was a significant correlation between a kid being bullied and then the onset of their gender dysphoria coming afterwards rather than before. But, of course it works both ways.
I mean, the type of bullying that Oli London received was positive. Okay? I'll say it. Like, yeah, no, people were like yelling at you, and they didn't bully you because you were trans. They bullied you because you're out of your fucking mind. Like, no one is out there being like, wow, Oli London's trans. I mean, I'm sure there were some transphobic people that actually were bullying him. But those people are now his allies, right? Most people like myself were looking at that and going, you're fucking out of your mind. Like, you're not Jimin. You're not him. You are not him. You can't be fucking Korean like that. It doesn't work that way, you dumbass.
Heteronormality.
Well, no, a recent study also talks about the correlation between autism.
I mean, this is the author. They wrote the conclusion right here. This is their.
That's a small summary on Yahoo
that's
News.
The author. That's the author. That's their conclusion.
Correct.
Right.
But if you read in the National
Institute,
Institute
who better to draw
of
a conclusion than the author of the study?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying.
Ollie London, duh. But the author is gay or something. It.
I'm an advocate.
But if
for trying to
bullying
stop
results
that.
in less transitioning, then that, according to what you're saying, is the best outcome for these kids.
No, I don't agree at all. No kid, even if a kid is feminine or a girl is a tomboy, they should not get bullied. No one should get bullied. They should be provided with support. But if somebody wants to transition,
notice how Ollie's not talking about transitioning. He's saying, "Oh, you're just tomboys."
All these kids are going through so many issues during that time. They are not in the right frame of mind to make an informed consent decision.
If a child is suicidal, do you believe?
I personally think it's pretty funny that he got that nose job and it's so busted that one of his nostrils literally doesn't move in the same way that the other one does. And he's over here talking about how, like, no one should get any kind of gender affirmation care. Like, bro, you fix your own shit, okay? What the is this?
Surely
and
you
they even had double
understand that the vast majority of people that transition don't regret it. I think it's like 95%, 99%. Are you aware of that stat?
You don't hear the cases of the detransitions.
Are you aware, Ollie, that 99%?
No, that's not true. We only hear the detransitioners in comparison.
I don't support that statistic. I think it's wrong because these clinics.
From what authority do you disprove that statistic? Say the name again. What is it?
It's called Tavistock.
Tavistock. Yeah.
So that one's actually being shut down this year because basically the National Health Service, which is basically looks after all the hospitals in the UK for the government, they actually said that there were a lot of ethical violations and stuff, and they also changed their policy.
It's funny to think that like Turf Island has any positive say on this matter. Or like shutting down hospitals implies anything but like conservative austerity measures in place for the UK. Okay, one, they're horrifically transphobic over there. Sorry, it's just the truth. And two, they're shutting down hospital care nonstop because of Tory austerity.
27 studies. So the number of patients, of children between 6 and 17 who went through irreversible surgery in the United States. What was the years on that one?
It was 3 years, 2019 through 2021.
So this is the most comprehensive data we have, and this comes straight from the government stats. It was 250 per year. Does that seem significant to you?
That's completely incorrect because there's a clinic in Oregon. It's in the thousands now. There's a clinic in Oregon that's done at least
the thousands. Is that significant? 1,000? I mean, we have 50 million children in the United States. Do you think 1,000 is statistically significant?
There's thousands, and this study probably only takes into account.
This is one counter. The other counter is not only is it statistically insignificant and you're making a mountain out of a molehill, the other counter always is, okay, what if you have a child, okay, who is in a situation where puberty blockers are medically necessary? And then he'll say, no, that's not the case. That's like trans people, blah, blah, blah. And you go, okay, again, contraceptives and certain kinds of certain kinds of hormone blockers are absolutely medically necessary for young girls, for example, that have issues related to their genitals and shit. You know what I mean? It's still medically necessary. Do you think that they should stop birth control? In many instances, could literally be life-saving. It's not even just about. It's not even just about like, kids are having sex and we need to make sure that you're curbing back on teenage pregnancy. It is an absolute medical necessity for a lot of people, a lot of girls especially. Do you think that that is appropriate, or do you want to stop that? And if he says, yes, that is appropriate, that should happen, then you go, okay, well then why the do you have a say on other medically necessary circumstances? Do you think you should set the boundaries on what is considered medically necessary and what's not medically necessary? Or should we leave that standard up to the medical professionals, the healthcare professionals that have the welfare of the entire public in mind and aren't some psychotic people who thought they were Korean 3 months ago?
It's not just...
Wait, Ollie London isn't Korean? No, I know he's very convincing, but he's actually, his last name betrays him. He's Londonian. Yeah.
Ethan, there's now over 60 pediatric gender clinics that have opened within the last 15 years across the US. They weren't there before, so they are profiting from this. They're opening clinics because they know they can profit.
Yeah.
But when they push,
yeah, it's really fucked up that like there is psychiatric help for like or some kind of help for example, people with autism. The number of kids with autism is skyrocketed. I wonder why that's happening. Maybe it's because we have better detection measurements, and also on top of that, we have a better understanding of how to like allow people on the autism spectrum disorder to like coexist in a normal way with the rest of society.
Why is
no, it can't be that. It must mean something
result
different.
Of it becoming more acceptable in society.
What I'm trying to tell you is that there are influences now that didn't exist 10 years ago that are pushing kids. So, for instance, TikTok, there's about 2.2.
So TikTok is turning.
It's like, Ali, you thought you were trans. Like, the f do you mean, dumbass? Like, you did it before movies. TikTok.
It was hippie movements. That wasn't accessible to the generation before them. I don't see the difference. The report that you told me to read, that bullying in childhood results in less people transitioning.
Ethan's like, your bullying didn't take, Ali. You still went trans, brother.
The study you sent me about bullying, the conclusion was that bullying results in less people transitioning.
Ali, it didn't take. What happened?
It's a result of social media. Well, you didn't have social media.
No, I don't. I'm not right wing or left wing. I'm just very much in the center. I'm just trying to help people using my platform to try and help.
You're not
people.
right wing or left wing. You're just insane.
We shouldn't be doing this to kids, and there generally is a concerted push over the last 5 years. In actual fact, when I detransitioned, I lost so many brand deals. I lost all my invites to New York Fashion Week. I was front row every season.
Yeah, but now you're on Tucker Carlson.
No, he wasn't. When was he? What? No.
Rest in peace to the GOAT.
That never happened.
Yeah, he was the original GOAT.
And then also because I've been a lot on Twitter, there's been so many people talking about me on Twitter because I'm supporting the Black Lives Matter and protests and stuff. So I had 200,000 views on the video. So because of that as well, I'm getting a lot of requests. So it's just,
is he getting right here? What is this noise?
So here you say you're supporting BLM to stay relevant and because it gets you more cameos.
What the f is that? What is that? What is that?
Since you went right wing.
Well, firstly, that audio was from a number of years ago. It was.
How did they record this? He's like panting.
It was completely uncredible, and just basically desperate for attention.
It's your voice, correct?
It's my voice, but it was edited deceptively to try and make.
Oh my God! Is it because his nose is f***ed up? He can't f***ing breathe normally.
So I'm not doing any of this.
It seems to me, Oli, that if we look at all of your different iterations of your personality, the one consistent thing is a need for attention.
Well, you could say that about Trisha Paytas, who was your best friend and you used to do a podcast.
I do say that. I mean, yeah, I would say that about Trisha Paytas. Sure.
Yeah, what?
Are you like
Trisha
Paytas?
Different identities, but
so you took a break off social media, and then you took your time to find God and find your new self.
I stopped spending hours and hours.
These weenies always have the same story.
Was messing up my mind, and I actually left my phone.
It's so stupid. It's so cliche. It's so boring. Like, you're creative enough to like come up with the most unhinged thing to do to your own body. You can't come up with a better a better backstory.
And I believe that some people generally feel trans since they're born. I do believe that.
So God made them that way, right? So God would have made them that way.
I just believe that some people are born as trans, but my issue is kids being indoctrinated to transition when they didn't think about that before. So however you're born, that's the way you feel, then that's okay. But I don't believe in people that wouldn't think about these things being indoctrinated to change.
If you were British, you would do anything to escape it too. That's pretty funny. I mean, look, I'll say something positive. Oli London is awesome because normally there's a lot of freak-like individuals out there that you would want to be making fun of, right? Openly. But you kind of can't because you don't really know their background. You don't know their backstory. What if they've undergone some hardship or something like that? Whereas with Oli London, he's an open book. So it's like open season, really. Like, you can do whatever the fuck you want. He's just such a fucking cartoonishly monstrous individual that, like, you don't really ever get an opportunity to just, like, unwind and unload on a motherfucker because they're so demonstrably dedicated to being as harmful as possible to others. It's great.
So there were some Roman scholars that were around at the time, and taken from their writings, he used to dress as a woman, he used to act like a woman, and his wife would have to call him ma'am. Now, I wasn't around back then, so I don't know the exact details, but he thought he was a woman. So, you know, maybe he could have been born like that. Some people are born like that, and they generally think that they're in the wrong body. So
you don't have an opinion on if the Bible...
TikTok made the Romans gay, Ethan. Duh.
Okay.
What the fuck do you mean? God, it's so simple.
The Bible was written a long time ago.
Yeah, then why, but surely, I mean, you know, why use the Bible as a guide for anything in your life if it was written so long ago? I don't understand that point.
Because, Ethan, because there's many teachings in the Bible that are very, very positive, you know, about love and acceptance and kindness, and trying to help
I wish
humanity.
you were there to dunk on him.
It was written
Not
a long time
really.
ago, so like I said,
Ethan's
the Old
doing a great
Testament
job.
There's also a story about this,
relevant
like,
now.
I heard you, when you're on these shows, I notice you talk a lot about this specific story of Jesus that inspired you, how he helped the lepers when no...
Wait, great question to follow up here is like, oh, so you don't like the Old Testament? Do you think it's appropriate to teach the Old Testament to children?
Do you know the verse on that one so I can reference it?
I can't quote it off the top of my head.
You don't know where that one is.
Well, there's a lot of verses in the Bible, there's a lot of chapters, but I can tell you specific stories that I like.
Okay. I was just testing you, Ollie. You know what I mean?
I know.
I was just trying to test you. You know, I was trying to do a fast one on you.
This
Yeah,
is
but I
very
want to
good.
ask...
Look, this is a really good technique that Ethan engages in, not to be all JCS, but what he's doing is like he's openly admitting that he's behaving in like a manner, and that he tested Ollie, he tested his interlocutor, and giving confidence to his interlocutor by saying like, hey, I'm rewarding you. You actually did a good job. You withstood my test and you won. This makes the interlocutor feel confident, and also feels like inadvertently they are on the side of the interviewer. What is this interview? Beanie Dude is rapid fire and gotcha scenarios to try and catch this dude off guard. It's really inane. Whatever your view on the topic is. No, I think he's doing a great job for that particular reason, actually. As a matter of fact, like it comes across as gotcha questions because, again, it comes across as gotcha questions because he's doing a good job. The only reason why you're saying it's gotcha questions is because it's doing a good job and you kind of like don't like his vibes. You might even end up agreeing with the other party a little bit, but you can't find yourself agreeing with that party because he's like very clearly delusional. That's the issue. That's why you're saying like, oh, it's a gotcha question. No, he's just doing a good job.
God, why are they all so focused on trans issues?
Well, I mean, they talk about a lot of other issues as well, but what's happening at the moment is there is a lot of...
Right, they talk about a lot of issues, but I think we can all agree that that's kind of the most pertinent for them, right? Even in polls, even in polls, people say trans issues is the most important to them, of conservatives. Why is that?
Well, I mean, correct, because it's
great because Ethan does a really good job of like, one, like he is the representation of like libtard politics, right? And even as like the representation of that kind of politics, like he does a really good job of ridiculing his opponents by simply asking questions, while also even admitting his own bias in many different respects, even saying like, oh, well, I was trying to catch you and you did a really good job of like avoiding it. You know what I mean? Like he does a very good job of like just winding down your opponent and actually offering them enough rope to hang themselves with. Not in the way that like people say that Joe Rogan does, but actually doing that. Because Joe Rogan doesn't have that ultimate goal of like giving their opponent enough rope to like hang themselves. Joe Rogan has a very clear-cut bias, and it's on the it's on the side of the people that he's having on, like the right-wing agitators.
I'm saying that there will be some kids that may feel better and feel like their life has been saved after that, but
you agreed with me, Ollie, just a few minutes ago that transitioning has saved kids' lives.
Oh, like anything in life, it can save lives, but also a lot of people...
Like anything in life? What does that mean?
A thing?
What else?
A lot of people will become suicidal later down the line because their body is completely messed up. There, so many different issues with their health.
Not suicidal now, which is really happening, but like, what about a hypothetical suicide later in life that hasn't happened that could happen potentially?
Kids.
That's how we offset suicide.
Kids can't consent to anything. You're telling them.
Also, gender affirming care is a part of a comprehensive healthcare solution.
You can only do the therapy that I approve of.
It's like saying, if let's say there's someone who's a schizophrenic, right? And the doctor is prescribing lithium, And Ollie's like, no lithium, only prayer and also whatever form of therapy he finds to be enough. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? It's just like, that's how comprehensive healthcare works. Sometimes you actually do medical intervention beyond just like therapy sessions.
The times it is reversible.
And lithium is for
when
bipolar, sorry, not schizophrenia, right? Lithium is for bipolar disorder.
Care under doctor supervision. You want this kid to kill himself.
Actually, for
Ollie.
both. I'm pretty sure lithium can be used for schizophrenia too. Mood regulation in general.
That you're a part of. You sold yourself out for some attention and some money, and you are dooming kids to kill themselves. How do you live with that? Before it was cute, silly stuff about transracial and BTS and pop stuff, and it was just silly nonsense about little racist stuff about Korean people having tiny penises.
Coming off.
But now you're actually delving into.
Shit.
Well, many of these kids are being pushed into it. Many grow out of gender dysphoria. If you Google right now,
but I'm telling you, kids kill themselves if they don't get this treatment. In the rare case that it's that severe, about 250 a year.
Well, show me. Okay, pull up a case then.
I'm sure we can do that. That's not a problem. Give me 1 second.
Wait, what? Pull up a case?
Gender affirming care is mental health support.
What is Ollie gonna do?
What
is Ollie gonna do? Be like, actually, that kid, like
psychiatry.
That kid had bad vibes. He should have killed himself. Like, is that what you're gonna do? He's like, give me an anecdote, please, so I can rip it apart.
With
like
dysmorphia
what?
Is gender affirming care. Do you know more than Pediatrics Association and Psychiatrists Association?
Yeah, because all of these companies, they made $2.2 billion transitioning kids last year. So it's a multi-billion-dollar industry with a lot of powerful.
So people make money from it. So therefore, we shouldn't let kids save their lives.
No, you can provide. I'm not going to keep going about this.
That's a great question. We're like, okay, people make money off of cancer treatment. No more chemotherapy. Sorry.
Reversible issues, and when they
you're right. We
adults,
should make it free. You're right. People shouldn't be charged for it.
I agree. Oh my God!
No.
He just shut the fuck.
I'm just not going to keep going on about the same thing, Ethan. I need to go anyway. It's quite late.
Ollie.
He just shut the fuck up. That's awesome.
I want to tell you.
Well, Joseph Mengele tortured and performed horrific medical procedures on kids. What
Jewish
they're doing
kids
today.
During the Holocaust.
He also committed a genocide against trans people. By the way,
he committed a genocide against trans people as well.
He killed a lot of
jokes
LGBT
about the
people.
Holocaust.
That shit's so fucked up. Actually, that's one of the most nefarious and awful ways that these pieces of shit
lab rats for this sick ideology. And
she sounds like him right now.
Like
any abusive kids, any experimentation on kids is wrong.
And a threat to that.
Ollie London's like, leukemia, let them die. Okay, Ollie London is like, leukemia, let's let them kill children instead. Any medical experimentation in regards to like a cure, can kill him, dude. What do you mean?
All right, Ollie. We're gonna anyway. Thank you for spending your time. I do appreciate you coming on.
But no, it's good to talk.
It was something.
I think he ripped him. I think he ripped Ollie, but notice how Ollie, like I said, is a more like Ollie London looks weird and is not like the best person as far as like the best speaker, but given the area that he occupies, it's very hard to go up against like transphobic motherfuckers because you're going up against a person that is like pretty much borderline schizophrenic, right? Like you're talking to someone with mental delusions and they are going to constantly pull you into like their delusions and have you address their delusions. And it's like, well, I can't argue against your own fucking world, man. Like you made up half this shit. It's literally like arguing against flat earthers, right? That's how it works. Like if your grift has no basis in reality and it's just like inherently harmful and all it is there to do is just like, push more harmful propaganda, it's very difficult to argue against them. Like he basically made up, child experiments happening on children that's like bad. He lied about a whole bunch of shit. It's difficult to argue against transphobic people like this because they're in a totally different league. It's like arguing against a flat earther. They're going to give you junk science. You need to know the junk science and address it. if you haven't studied the junk science, it makes it very difficult. Same with like super transphobic people. So even someone as stupid as Ollie London could come across as like coherent in some ways, even though he's like insane, right? And I think that's what happened here with Ethan. But Ethan still did a very good job of addressing a lot of the most unhinged parts. But he did a great job. He did a fucking fantastic job.